Shalom. I am Rabbi Nathan Davidovich, speaking to you on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. This week in the synagogue, we read three different things. We read two different parshas of the Torah, Parsha Vayakhel and Pikudei, and we also read a special reading, Parshat HaChodesh, about the importance of sanctifying the new month. I'm going to talk about one of the things we learned from Parshas Vayakhel. And I'm talking about building the Mishkan, building the Tabernacle, which was built in the wilderness, and building it with love, which is the key. And it talks about the Mishkan, the Parsha talks about the contributions from each Jewish person that was necessary according to the desires of their heart. And we learn that it is not the giving of the money that results in the construction of the Mishkan, but rather the love of each person towards God and from the recognition that everything comes from God. And the result of this great love results in the construction of the Mishkan, and also God giving a present to the Jewish people of Shabbat. So let's talk about this. Let's see what the sentences actually say in the Parsha. At the beginning of the Parsha, it says, after Moses gathers all the people together, he says as follows. He said, Kachu me'itchem, take from yourselves, Teruma L'Hashem, an offering, a present to God. Call Nadiv Libo, whoever has a willing heart, Yiviehu shall bring it. Now, there's a couple of interesting points there. First of all, when you're talking about a commandment to give something, you don't normally say kahu, take. It should have said give. Give from yourself. And then instead it says take. And then kahu itchem, take from yourself. And then it says kol nadiv libo, whatever your heart desires. What does that mean? First of all, we have to understand that the whole concept of the construction of the Mishkan, of the Tabernacle, and all the various vessels is repeated in great detail in other places in the Torah. And the reason it's repeated in such detail is because it gives a very important message to us as to what God wants from us and how to serve God. First of all, the words take from yourself. God isn't really interested in our money. He's interested in ourselves. As the Gemara says, that God only wants our hearts. He wants of ourselves. He wants to give of ourselves. When we're giving money, it's not that we're giving some material thing for a holy purpose, but we're giving of ourselves. We're putting ourselves into it. And that is the key. And when it talks about Nadiv Libo, it says you give whatever your heart desires. And we know in the Shema Yisrael, the very first sentence of the Shema Yisrael, it says, V'yahavtes Hashem Elokecha, you shall love the Lord your God, b'chol levavecha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol ma'odecha, with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your ma'odecha, meaning your everything. In other words, you should recognize that everything that you have isn't yours, comes from God, and you should donate it, give it to God. Recognize that. And that's what God wants from us. When we're giving something, when we're giving tzedakah, we're giving the most we can, giving charity the best we can, but not to just simply be giving money, but to give of ourselves. The Parsha later on, it talks about every person giving this, but then later on, it says, Baboker, Baboker, every morning, they shall bring the offerings. And the sentence is not clear as to what it means, Baboker, Baboker, every single morning. And what this talks about is a person who doesn't really have money to bring. If he doesn't have money to bring, what can he do? So the Nativot Shalom says that's why the Torah is telling us to bring of yourself. The person who has nothing to give, no material things to give to serve God, can still serve God. And he points out the first part in the Shulchan Aruch says when you wake up in the morning, you should wake up like a lion to serve God. So that waking up of a lion, even though he doesn't have the ability to give anything, he doesn't really know how to pray to God, that waking up ready to serve God, that's what God wants. There is a story, beautiful story that indicates how we have to think about somebody else when we're giving tzedakah, when we're giving something else, somebody who needs something. And the story is a story of Rabbi Akiva. And he married Rachel. Rachel married Rabbi Akiva when he was a shepherd, a simple shepherd. She fell in love with him because he was very humble and he was very modest, and she saw something in him. Well, Rachel's father was Kalba Savua, who was the richest man in Jerusalem. And he didn't want his daughter to marry Rabbi Akiva. He wanted her to marry a Torah scholar. And Rabbi Akiva was a simple shepherd. So Kalba Savua disowned his daughter. They got married and they had to live in a hut. They had no money. And they lived on straw. And the Gemara recounts their bed was a bed of straw. And the Gemara recounts Rabbi Akiva used to take the straw out of her hair in the morning when they woke up. And he said to her, if only I had money, I would buy you a golden crown of Jerusalem, the crown of Jerusalem. But I have no money, so this is what we have. So just then there was a knock on the door, and Eliyahu Hanavi, the prophet Elijah, disguised as a human being, came and said, listen, I need your help. My wife just gave birth, and she has no straw to sleep on. Can you give us some straw? So even though they had nothing, barely enough for themselves, they readily gave the straw, and the person was so happy. Then Rabbi Akiva said to his wife, you see, we thought we were having it hard. There's people who have much more difficult times than we. And what we could do with the little bit that we have is we could make somebody so happy. We could be Sameach Bechelko. The ethics of the fathers tell us, who is rich? HaSameach Bechelko, he who makes somebody else happy. That's what we have to do. It's not about us. It's about somebody else. And that concept of giving from your heart, giving of yourself, that's what led to the building of the Mishkan. And as a present for that, because of the love of the children of Israel towards God, God gave us a sign that we have every single week. He gave us the Sabbath. Sabbath, which is a sign of the love between God and the Jewish people. Shabbos is a time when there's complete love. And Rabbi Akiva, the story of Rabbi Akiva, you'll remember that Rabbi Akiva said that the most important thing in the Torah, the underlying principle, is v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love your neighbor as yourself. We are all children of God, and we have to recognize that and do what we can to make somebody else happy. When it comes to serving God, give of ourselves. give of ourselves, recognizing that it's God's material things that He's given us that we're giving back to Him. Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbat.